The first generation TT remains an icon thanks to its truly original design. When it was debuted at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 1995, it was just a concept car, but the car that went into production remained extremely true to form. Although the V6 was the most powerful and personable engine to power the TT, it was actually the Quattro Sport with its 4-cylinder turbo that became the most sought after variant. This limited edition model was built and engineered by Quattro GmbH, which meant that the QS was an RS and S in everything but badge. The 1.8 turbo engine rose in power to 240 brake horsepower and the weight was reduced by 75 kilograms. The weight reduction was in part thanks to the beautiful Recaro pole positions, but also replacing the rear seats with a strut brace. They removed the aircon and standard fitment, the spare wheel and also the rear harmonic dampener. The battery was then relocated to the rear of the car to get better weight distribution. The TT Quattro Sport was instantly recognisable on the road by its two-tone paint scheme, V6 body kit and unique 18-inch 15-spoke alloy wheels. The suspension was also upgraded to have better handling characteristics. The Quattro Sport is certainly a rarer car than the equivalents of its era, as only 900 of these came to the UK. Values are strong and rising. As a car which is relatively cheap to maintain and also very reliable, a lot of them have done serious mileage, so finding a low mile example is getting harder and harder. The 1.8 engine is considered very reliable and the bodywork relatively rust resistant, but many owners say that it's the Haldex four-wheel drive system that you have to watch out for.
So I've had the car for 3 months and I was looking for a new daily driver, something that was practical and fun. So I was taking a look on these for the past year or so, and eventually this example came up for sale. I was after something practical and economical to drive every day, so I was considering an E46 M3 along with a Porsche 968. Together I considered all three, but thought this was the most interesting and practical and fun to drive throughout the entire year with the four-wheel drive system to use as well. Favourite part about the car is the bucket seats. They're really comfy and you can't fall out of them through corners and they squeeze you through those bends, which is great fun as well. I think they're an affordable price point. However, you are trying to maintain a car which is expensive. It's achievable as long as it's an example which is looked after and won't cost you too much to run. But I do think they're in fact simple enough to kind of learn and fix, and there's plenty of parts out there, which is always great to see.
I must admit I have got a little bit of a soft spot for MK1 TT simply because it takes me back to my childhood. My mum had one of the 3.2 V6s and I remember being picked up from school, folded into the back of this thing and my mum pooning it around the back lanes back home. Now when I first saw this car, I really like the way this thing looks. The two-tone paintwork, the 18-inch wheels, all of the trick bits and the motorsport feel to it. These Recaro pole position seats still feel so modern even by today's standards, and this car is from 2006. I can imagine when this was unveiled in 2005, people who loved the Audi TT, the pretty little sports car, this must have been absolutely magic, because you think about it, you had the older sibling, which was the V6 3.2 naturally aspirated with 250 brake horsepower. And in comes this car. While it did have the smaller 1.8 engine turbocharged, it produced 240 brake horsepower, just 10 horsepower less, but it had the weight savings of 88 kg. Now the platform for these cars was actually the Mark IV Golf, which was famously quite heavy and lumpy. But this managed to take all of that and turn it into a really nice little motorsport feeling package. When you're driving it today, the car is super smooth, it's got a 6-speed manual gearbox, it feels quick, and the fact that it's got that Haldex four-wheel drive system, Quattro always feels so planted. It just feels like you could literally drive it around any S-bend and the thing stays on rails. I can't quite believe that this car is as old as it is because it honestly feels still very modern and relevant. I love the fact that when you gear down and fire it into a corner, it is great fun, and I can understand why you'd want to take something like this on a road trip and just not worry about the mileage. Now for people who are a little bit taller, I will say the cabin space isn't absolutely huge, but thankfully due to the Recaro pole positions, you actually sit a little bit lower in the car. So you really feel like you're sitting nice and low. The driving position adds to the motorsport kind of feel to it. And the seats hug you as you take it on a spirited drive on some B road somewhere. It's an enjoyable drive. I can tell that this would be something that you could spend a lot of time traveling in, and it's really quite comfortable. I can't believe how comfortable I am in these seats. And you've got plenty of room in the back if you wanted to go away for a weekend. I definitely think that this is a driver-focused car. I mean, I have driven the 3.2 V6 naturally aspirated, and I will say that this is actually more fun to drive. It just feels like you can chuck it around a little bit more, and you can really have fun with it. Ultimately, this car does what it says on the tin. If you're looking for a more lightweight version of a car that you already loved, that you can have a bit of fun in, do plenty of miles, be comfortable, not spend too much on fuel, then this is very much an option if you're looking at future classics. The Quattro Sport has come under fire over the years for the fact that people say that it doesn't have much feedback through the steering wheel. I can confirm that it can be a little bit numb sometimes, but if you're looking for a car that you just want to take out and drive fast and have fun in, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's not chaotic and it's not edge of your seat, but it's still a really good fun ride. It might not just be as raw as maybe some people like it. By today's standards, these represent a really good value proposition, as for sub 10K, you could have a car which you can have lots of fun in, you can use as a daily. I think they're actually going to be a future classic. After spending the day with the Quattro Sport, I'm convinced that this will become a future classic. It's not had its day in court yet, but if you buy one of these, it's a relatively inexpensive way of getting into an exclusive club. There's not many of them that came to the UK, so they are getting rarer and rarer. If you're looking for a car that has a motorsport feel, but can do all the miles, all the way to the moon and back, then this is the car for you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Future Classics, and we'll see you on the next one.